I always had this confusion what profession to do in life, what is that I like actually to do, and never really got the answer until maybe almost this age. And this is really difficult for people. So it usually starts when you're a teenager, you need to choose for a school, and it's so difficult. And I can tell you that, again, throughout these years, I could not find the answer, and it's difficult to explain how difficult this is. And I think there are many people in this situation. Now, I will perhaps tell you what my profession was. Finally, it doesn't matter. What I want to point is just throw this idea out there. Just give it a thinking. This may not be, you may not understand this at a certain age. You may need to be older to understand what I say. So maybe if you are in your 20s, you will just kind of say it doesn't make sense. Think about it this way. Yes, we are modern civilization, modernity, and so on, different than what was happening 500 years ago. Not the same people. Not the same people as maybe culture, as way of life. But in our core, in our essence, we are still the same human beings, like the ones that did live maybe 1,000 years ago. And this brings my idea here. People 1,000 years ago, most of them, not all of them, but most of them, could be 500 years ago, 2,000 years ago, doesn't matter. In the past times, they were mostly living from agriculture in the countryside. It's I'm not sure if everybody, especially maybe the younger persons today, they know really what that means. That means first you provide for yourself your food, but also you are very busy, so it's a lot of work. Now we do have tools today, we have even machinery and so on, so we don't have to work that hard the way our ancestors were working, but it's still a lot of work. If you have animals, you have crops, you have fruit trees and so on, you have cereals, you need to, it's a lot of work. And what I'm saying here is that it's a way of life that is very complete. Now there is, I think one of the questions that comes to mind is how am I going to make a living out of this? How am I going to make money out of this? I don't think that it must necessarily mean that you are going to have a salary out of this. For sure you need first to buy the place, right? To buy the land, to build or buy a home. So this is not doable by yourself right after you finish your school. It's impossible. You don't have that money unless someone from your family is helping you. So you may still need to have a profession, work for 5, 10, 15 years, save some money, and then just move into this direction. You also need to understand that if you have a land, home, there are taxes that are going to be expensive. So you need to have money, not necessarily big amounts of money, but you will need money basically. It's not just like you have your crops and that's it, you have your food most of the times. So it has to be some sort of an organization. You need to organize this thing. But think about it this way. This is how humans were living not so far away ago, and not just that, but they have been living like this for thousands of years. So there are also several aspects. I'm just giving ideas here. You just cannot start living like this out of the blue. You just say, okay, I'm buying this home, I'm buying this land, I just go in there with my car, dog, kids, whatnot, and tomorrow morning I'll be completely independent and so on. No, we no longer have this context. People back in the days were born in this situation in the countryside, were living with their parents, were learning how to produce their food and everything else. So it was a learning curve, and also the environment, basically their local community was supporting them. And when you start to do these things by yourself today, it's going to be completely different, because you need to learn a lot of things, and learning is never like a straight road. You do a lot of mistakes unless you have someone to teach you with experience. Also, you need to think, maybe if you are going to have a family, children are going to live away from other children unless there is, again, like other peoples in the same area. So it's better not to isolate the children, but at the same time, again, it's always a matter of working a lot through the day. So obviously you're not going to ask a 4-year-old child to work through the day, but even at 7 they can start helping their parents with small tasks and just be busy through the day. And this takes them away from those screens as well. But maybe it's also a good idea, if someone is thinking to make this kind of change, to not go by themselves. Themselves includes their family. Go with other people, establish a small community. I think it's very helpful, not just from the point of view of helping each other, but also socially speaking, psychologically speaking. If there are several families, several persons around that place, it's always going to be much easier. So you don't feel you are isolated, and it's a change. So it may get you depressed and so on, and discouraged and so on. So this has been my personal thinking, but I think many people don't even think about this point, living in the countryside at some point. And if you couple this with not knowing what kind of profession, what kind of job to do in life, maybe just give it a thought, give it a thinking. Who knows? Again, just saying this once again, people have been living like this for thousands of years, and they were very happy. It was struggling, it was difficult for sure. There were other problems. Today, I think we have much more support. We have the technology, we can have a fridge, we can have power, you have medicine also, so it's completely different. It's really not the hardship that was in the past.